Hello, everyone. This is going to be a new series that I'm experimenting with called Reviewing Random Crap. So in this first episode, I thought that I would start with a hotel key card because this is the first thing that I saw laying on my desk. So this is a hotel key card that you would use to open your door if you're staying in a hotel. I don't necessarily want to give them free advertising, but it does appear to be a Hilton key card for a Hilton hotel. And I'm not sure exactly, I don't remember exactly which hotel it was. I don't remember this trip specifically. I know that I almost never formally check out of the hotel because in theory what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to give these back to the hotel people at the end of your stay. But I never do that because every time I do, I go up to the front desk and I say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I'm just checking out. And then they just go, okay, thanks. And they don't do anything or look at the computer or give a shit, really. So that's when I sort of realized, I guess this doesn't really matter. And now I just leave. And I feel like that saves both of us a lot of trouble. So, I guess I should probably try to maybe give it a... So I'm trying to think about the metric with which I will use to review these objects. Specifically, I guess for functionality in terms of what they're designed to do and how easy is it to do the thing that they're designed to do with the object, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5. Maybe a 2 out of 5, honestly. 2.5. Because they don't really work very well. The way that this key card typically would work is you would walk up to the door and then you would hold it over the thing, the square, with a blinking red light. And then you would hold it like this, and then it would go and open the door, and it would blink green to know that you had opened it. But I have a hell of a time getting them to work. I feel like 3 out of 5 times it doesn't. You check into the hotel and you get your key cards and they say, okay, it's going to be room 267, 67. So you go up to the room and you try to do the thing, but it doesn't work. And that's the biggest things that that happens so often that I'm almost certain they're going to happen regardless of your hotel experiences. The key card isn't going to work at first, and then you're going to have to go down to the front desk again and be like, hey, Mike, I don't think my key card works. And they're going to be like, really? That's interesting. Huh. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, it turns out we forgot to turn it on or something. Or they wouldn't actually say that, but it would be something along those lines. So they would go, adjust something. And then the hotel key card would work again, maybe, But it's always that it doesn't work right away. Or it stops working halfway through the trip at some point, some random time. So that's almost a guaranteed problem to go wrong. Another is that the air conditioning doesn't work. I feel like that happens a lot. Something also that, I'm very particular. So if the air conditioning, my ideal hotel air conditioning experience would be, obviously it gets cold, right? But, you would want it to have a constant fan setting. And you don't want the constant... What drives me nuts is that when you turn on the constant fan setting, you can still hear when the air conditioning proper turns off because the constant fan, the white noise of the constant fan is sort of less intense. So when the AC is running properly, there's sort of a high frequency and a mid frequency and a low frequency sort of humming. That's really nice, and it drowns out the noise in the hotel, because that's another problem that always happens with hotels is the walls are so thin that you always hear a family of 7 with their stupid children banging around until the wee hours of the morning, upstairs and downstairs and to the left and to the right. And a lot of times the air conditioning at its best doesn't even drown that out. But, ideally you want there to not be much of a big difference between the constant fan setting and the air conditioning proper. I also don't like when the air conditioning and the heater are combined into one function. So in other words, you can only set it to a temperature, and it will turn the AC or the heat on to get the room to that temperature. Either one, right? So let's say it's the summertime, but overnight it's supposed to be kind of cool. So you set the AC to 66. Then throughout the night, the temperature goes below 66 outside. So the room starts to go below 66. The air conditioning would turn the heater on to bring it back up to 66. Instead of a typical air conditioning setting where it understands you set it to 66 degrees. If it goes below 66, that's good and fine, and it doesn't do anything, because it knows that you want the room to either be 66 or cooler. So in other words, you don't want the room to be warmer than 66. It's not that you want the room to be 66 at all costs, which is the way that some machines interpret it, that really irritates me, And it works the other way too. If it's cold out, and you set the heat on 72, or 70, and the room gets warmer than 72, it'll turn the AC on to cool it back down to 72. It's like, the room being 72 is not what I have my heart set on. What I want is for the room to be warm. So that's something that I feel like is a problem that tends to come up with hotels a lot. Another would be that the air conditioning unit makes a weird noise, or anything makes a weird noise in the room at all, to be honest. If there's like a weird sort of like, I don't even know. I feel like there's always something that's making a weird noise that is interrupting the maybe consistent white noise tone of the air conditioning that you want. Let's see, what's another common problem with hotels? And I'm sort of branching off from the key card thing, but I do think that since the key card is just one of the many things that can go wrong, it's sort of contained within the hotel experience. Okay, let's see how we're doing on time here. Okay. Something else that I don't like about the sometimes they can happen with the AC is that I really don't like when the AC turns off, it makes a loud noise. So sometimes it'll run the actual air conditioning, and then the air conditioning turns off and it goes chunk and sort of shakes, because then that wakes me up. And it wakes me up every single time the air conditioning goes on and off, you know. And I get why they can't have this, because that would be really inefficient for energy, but I do really wish they would just have a setting where it's like, just run the AC constantly. Don't ever have it turn off, even if it's getting colder than the temperature that I want. Because I will be lying there trying to sleep, you know, and I can hear every time. The worst, oh my God. The worst would be if the AC, when the AC turns off, it's silent. Because then that's just, you know, that's more annoying than if it would just be silent the entire time, you know. And whether it's silent or whether the AC tone is different from the constant fan tone, I lay there all night and I wait in eager anticipation for the AC to come back on, you know. So that's very irritating. You know, bringing it back to the key card specifically, though, you can see on the front here that it says, "It's time to let me go." That's what it says on the front of this key card. And on these particular key cards, and actually I think probably for most hotels, I don't know if all hotels, if it's like a monopoly now and every hotel chain is actually owned by just one or two. An oligopoly, if you don't know, by the way, would be the word for a monopoly, but multiple companies. So it's like a monopoly would be like, you know, if one company owns everything, and an oligopoly would be if multiple companies own everything, but it's only like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And that looks to be the case with this, because look at all this. Look at all these sub brands here that are on the back. So I'm a little concerned about that. I think maybe the government might need to get in there and break these up a little bit, but they're never going to do that, right? Let's see. Yeah, see, so it says, "It's time to let me go," and then at the bottom it says, "Your phone is now your room key. Download the Hilton Honors app." Don't download the Hilton Honors app, because this is not an ad. Okay? Fuck the Hilton Honors app. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because they have been trying to make this happen for years. I think for 10 years now. They have been saying, "Hey, by the way, we're not going to be using key cards anymore. Now you can use your phone to open the door." This is a classic example of something that I don't understand just plagues modern society, where we fix things that aren't broken. Why is everybody so insistent on coming up with a solution to something that isn't broken? Doors work fundamentally. There is no problem with doors. There is no problem with the way that a door opens. We do not need to fix the concept of opening a door. Of all the things in this world, and you know what? I don't think that they're ever going to do this. I don't think they're ever going to do that. I don't think it's ever actually going to happen. They're trying to make their stupid fucking app, like everybody on this planet is trying to make a stupid fucking app where you have to log in with your bullshit, because they want to be able to harvest your data and sell your data to whoever. Advertiser. I don't even know what they do with your data. We don't know yet. So everybody wants to use a stupid app for everything, including opening a fucking door. I am not using an app to open a door. So I really think this is one of those things that they're desperately trying to make work, because they probably have a lot of money invested in it. But people are so resistant to that change. I just don't see it ever happening. I don't see, because I don't even, I'm pretty sure that they've been using hotel key cards since before I was alive. It's something that's so fundamentally ingrained in the hotel process that I just don't think it's ever going to change on a massive level. I mean, think about how many hotels there are. Think about all the hotel infrastructure that the world has. You know? I just don't see it happening. So at a certain point, it's like, I don't even remember a time when before these said, it's time to let me go. I don't even remember a time when these key cards didn't say, your phone is your room key now. Get ready, because we're about to get rid of key cards. You know, any day now, we're going to be getting rid of the key cards. Let's see. So, yeah, so that's annoying. So that's definitely going to dock a star from the overall rating, because... jeez. Something that's nice, we can maybe try to shift into positive. Something that's nice is that they give you 2. And usually what I do is, if I don't have another guest, then I will take 1 and I'll put it in my pocket. Wait, no, I'll take 1. So basically what you would want to do if you have 2 key cards is you put them each in a different place. So if you lose the first one, you still have the other one. So, you know, it'd be stupid to be like, I'm going to put both key cards in my wallet, because then if you lose your wallet, you don't have a key card. So what I would do is put 1 in my wallet and then another one maybe in my pocket. Or it would be stupid to put them in the room, but that's the general idea. You could put 1 in your car. You know, just somewhere where if you lose one, then you have the other. So I do like that they give you 2. I guess I don't have any complaints with the material. You know, I mean, I'm glad that they haven't tried to. I mean, I would imagine that these are probably pretty cheap, but you know, I'm glad that they haven't tried to make it some flimsy, stupid material, you know, because at this point, it's like with these fucking corporations, you feel like you need to be grateful for the fact that they're not fucking you in the ass with something else, even though they are. Anyway, let's see. So, okay, I guess now I'm trying to think of I'm just trying to make sure that I talk about every stage of the process here. So, let's see. If you would go into a hotel, if you're not familiar with these, basically these are what, I probably should have explained this earlier, but these are what opens the door of a hotel room. Oh, I did explain it. Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, and this is just a little pro tip for you. Make sure when you stay in a hotel that when you shut the door, you pull it until you hear a click. Because a lot of times when you just let the door shut, it doesn't actually shut all the way, so the lock doesn't engage. So you got to make sure you pull it and hear a click. Then the lock won't engage. Yeah. I don't really like elevators. So I try to avoid elevators as much as possible. And actually, I had a real incident recently at a hotel stay where I'm always like, where's the stairs? And I'm trying to find the stairs. And it takes me the entire trip to find the stairs. And then finally, it's like, of course, when I get lost every time. I'm like, which door goes to the parking lot? What's the closest door to the parking lot that I can go to the room? You know, every time. I have no idea where I'm going. It's a labyrinthian maze until the last day of the trip. And then finally, it's like when I'm loading my suitcase in the car, then it's like, oh, finally I know where I'm going, you know. But I had a real incident recently because I was, I had found the staircase and I was trying to load stuff into the car to leave. And I was taking multiple trips, I was going up and down the stairs. and there was a door, fire door, that you would have to open to go down to the staircase. And the door would shut loudly. It would slam shut. And I will admit, maybe I should have been thinking about that. But it's kind of not my fault because that's the hotel's fault. I should be able to use the stairs. I should be able to use a door, without affecting the other patrons. But basically, I was going up and down the stairs, loading stuff in the car. And this lady came out of her room, which was right next to the door staircase, and said, and she looked, her hair was sticking up like this, and she was like, "Excuse me." And I was like, "Yes." And she said, "Have you been the one who's opening and slamming the door over and over again for the past 3 days?" And I was like, doesn't ring a bell. And she said, "Well, could you please use the elevator?" And I was like, "Well, first of all, you don't tell me what to do. But second of all, yes, because I know that I am very, that would make me, I think if I were in her position, I probably would have found the person and gouged their eyes out with my thumbs and then strangled them to death." So I totally understood her perspective. And you know what? I'm glad that I'm glad that she had the confidence to say something to me. I will say that I don't think that that's typically a problem for her, but at the same time, because she's, not to profile people, but she looked like a classic, can I see the manager type, but she was not rude about it, she was just upset, obviously, because I think anybody would be upset in that situation if you can't sleep, but she didn't say, "Hey, you fucking," I don't know. It could have been worse, so I was like, all right, sure, I'll use the elevator, even though I really don't like it. And I'm leaving anyway, so it's just 2 more times oh my gosh, and the other day, I got so mad yesterday. I got the most mad that I've ever been in a long time. Which is saying something for me, because I was in a store. I'm getting mad just thinking about it. I was in a store, and it's crowded. It's a Memorial Day holiday weekend. And this guy was with his son, teenage son. And he was just la-di-da. The dude was browsing the shelf, just like looking at all the different stuff, and hunched over, and his ass was stuck fully out into the aisle. He was bent over like this, just like he owned the whole store, And I was trying to get through because he was in front of the thing that I wanted to get. And so I said, "Excuse me," I was very nice. I said, "Excuse me, I just want to squeeze by you real quick." The son said, "Oh yeah, sorry, of course, no problem." Very nice. The dad, do you want to know what the dad said to me? I was trying to say, "Excuse me, I need to get it through," clearly, and I've been trying to get through for several seconds. And he was still just like, do. And didn't even look up. He said, "You can go around." Because I was trying to pass him, to get the soda that was sort of to his left. So I was trying to kind of pass closest to where he was bent over in the aisle looking at something. So I said, "Excuse me." And he said, "You can go around." Can you believe that? How dare you? The gall. Just get out of the fucking way. Telling me to go around the other way. So he was telling me, "You can just go around my ass." Barely. When I tell you, and I kept the whole rest of the day, because I didn't want to cause a public scene, because clearly this guy's an asshole. But when I tell you, I tried so hard the rest of the day, I was like, "Dan, this is the kind of thing that you just need to forget about, because that person is never going to ever change. All you can do, all you have control over, is how much this ruins your day." And so I said, "Dan, just forget about it. Please just forget about it." I kept trying to forget about it, but I couldn't forget about it. I was like a dog with a bone, and it made me so mad. All day. I kept remembering it, and I would get mad again. And I kept thinking about all the things I should have said. I should have said, like, why don't you go around? Or something. I don't know. No, that's not any good, but something like that, And if you're watching this video, guy, you're a fucking asshole. And you better hope that your son doesn't turn out like you. Prick. I'm so mad. Let's try to bring it back to the hotel key card. So let's see. We've discussed it's time to let me go. We've discussed your phone is now your room key. Download the Hilton Honors app. Don't download the Hilton Honors app. So basically what you would do, so in terms of where this card came from, again, I don't remember specifically the hotel that it was from, but what I believe happened was, usually when I leave the hotel, I put the hotel key card in my pocket of my pants somewhere. And then I get home to Los Angeles and I'll be doing laundry, and when I take my pants to pull my pants up. That's a little reference for the loyal followers. When I will take my pants and sort of feel I'll sort of, give them a pat down to see if I have any objects in my pocket, not when I'm wearing them, but when I'm holding them up to put them in the laundry, then I'll sort of go, and so probably what happened was I was giving my pants a pat down before I went to do laundry, pulled this out of my pocket and tossed it onto my desk, and it's been sitting there for God knows how long. I don't know, And so when I was trying to think of a video to do today, I was just like, yeah, sure, let's do that, because I might as well at this point. So, yeah. So when you go to a hotel, basically what you do is, I'm just trying to go through so that, a big thing that I want to focus on in these reviews for these random, I should also probably get in a thumbnail, like, ooh. I don't know. Eddie, that'll have to work. Some ASMR for you. I don't know. It's time to let me go. Okay, so when you would go to a hotel, you'd probably book online. Oh, and this is a pro tip for people also. Do not book through, well, you can do whatever you want, but just know that if you book through a third party, like bingobb.com or something, or bingbang.net, first of all, the way that they sort of entice you to do that is they make it cheaper, but it ends up not really being cheaper. It ends up being like $20 cheaper, and what I found is that if you book through the hotel's website, they have a lot more flexibility in terms of refunds. If you need to change something, if you need to change a date, if you're not going to be there till the next day, or you need to add a day, or you want to change the room, or you want to do something of that nature, they have a lot more flexibility if you use their website. Even if I'll tell you something. There have been so many times where I have booked. So if I booked through like bb.com, then, and I call them and I'm like, hey, I'm having some kind of issue. I'm not going to be there till later, whatever. Is there any way that I could get a refund for like Sunday? And they'll be like, oh, well, since you booked on bboop.biz, we can't really do anything because we don't have any control over it. So you'll have to call them, and then you call bingbang.com, and it's like, just the sound of a generator in Malaysia, you know. So that's why I have found that I've even had luck with, if you book using their website and then you call them, even if it's non-refundable again, or it's like if you have to get a refund, you have to call within 48 hours or 24 hours. Sometimes I call and I put on the charm, because I'm a charming guy, and I ask real nice, and sometimes they're just like, yeah, I'll take care of it, whatever, sure. So that's just a little pro tip for you. So you would go to a hotel, you would book online, preferably through the actual website, and then you would check in. I guess I don't really have any issues with the check-in process. Obviously, I don't like waiting around if there's people, at the tour taking a long time. But then they would give you the key card and give you the Wi-Fi password and the room number on the little sleeve. And this, I guess, is also just a big... I know that these days hotels are sort of not very chic. Everybody loves to use the Airbnbs. But that ain't never going to be me, sis. Because Airbnb, fuck them. It's so crazy how Airbnbs, it's just... I don't understand why people want to do that. With a hotel, there's a certain standard of quality that needs to be met across all hotels. People's asses are on the line for the corporate because they're working at a corporate job. So everybody there's checks and balances that are the same every time. Everybody has to be held to a certain standard. Of course, ideally, but the variable within that is much smaller than at an Airbnb, where it's just like anything goes. This is just some random hoo-ha, This is just somebody's garage. It's the Wild West on Airbnb. You're leaving so much up to just the whims of the Airbnb person, The Airbnb person, half the time I feel like Airbnbs are just people who are slumlords, and they're like, how can I squeeze? They'll be like, oh yeah, this is a 6-bedroom house. Then you go to the house and it's like there's 2 bedrooms that each have like 5 cots in them, If I had a nickel for every time that I went on if I had a nickel for every time that I went on a trip with a group of friends that said that there were 6 or 8 bedrooms and there were actually only 3. So I ended up having to sleep on the couch by myself, I would have 1 nickel. That's the kind of thing that happens with an Airbnb. And that's not even the start of it, You can get at least at a hotel with the pool and amenities, they have to clean it. It's somebody's job to clean it. With an Airbnb, you get to the person's house and the pool has, a rat swimming around in it, and it's got bed bugs. And then you text the owner and you're like, hey, there's rats and then the bed bug in the hotel, And then the owner texts back and says, I'm coming to the house with a gun and I'm going to kill you or something, It's just that kind of stuff. So, fuck Airbnbs. I'll never use one. And hotels have their own problems, but, there's more latitude. So typically I'll arrive at the hotel, and check in and They say that the check, first of all, Jesus Christ. Okay, so this is a whole thing that's on social media a lot where people are like, why is checkout time 11, but check-in time is 3? Couldn't we reverse that so the check-in time is 11 and checkout time is 3? No, because they have to clean the room, dumb fuck. But more importantly, they say that check-in is at 3 p.m. So what I usually do is I just go at noon, or I just go whenever I get there. And I'm like, hey, I know I'm a little early, but I don't know if there's any way that I can check in. I'm here. And a lot of times they'll just do it. A lot of times they'll just be like, oh yeah, sure. Sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they do. So yeah, that's a pro tip for you as well. So then I'll get into the room, and that is when the key card starts to play an important role in the process. So I'll boop, scan the key card on the thing, and then hopefully it works. So I'll open the door. And then obviously, the first thing I do, I will admit that I'm a neurotic person. I'm a little bit of a germaphobe. But I am not like some of these people that I see on TikTok. All I think is sensible to do, like there's some people who pack their own sheets and they change the sheets on all the mattresses and things. That's a little overboard for me. I'm fine with the sheets. I believe that they're clean, but I will check just to see if there's any obvious signs of anything. So particularly the big thing that I'm checking for is bed bugs, So, I just give it a little once over and I'll pull up the thing. I just see if I see any droppings or bugs crawling around, and bed bug droppings typically look like somebody took a Sharpie and went doink on the sheet. And then you don't just want to check the sheets, you also want to check, the baseboard and the carpet, in the little nooks and crannies. And just give it a once over. And then if I don't see anything, then I'm satisfied. So I do wonder, something that I do wonder, and if there's anybody who works at a hotel, I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on this. The blanket, or the comforter rather. Most hotels have a comforter blanket that's thicker than the sheets. Do they wash that? Or no? Because I think to myself, like, well, it's a big, thick thing, and the sheets are between them and the user's body. So I could see it being a case where they're like, well, we don't really need to wash this, and it's not practical to wash this, so just don't worry about it. So to be safe, I usually don't let the comforter at any point make contact with me. So I'll roll the sheets over the top. But then I'm also like, well, that would be crazy if they didn't wash the comforter. Surely they must, So even if it's like a sleeve that they pull the thing out. But then again, I'm trying to think from the perspective of like cleaning the room, just like, from the perspective of efficiency, it wouldn't really be very efficient if you had to take the sleeve out of the comforter every time, because that's a lot of sleeves taken out of the comforter, So hopefully they just, hopefully they just throw everything in the washer and the dryer. And that's a reason why I'm not really concerned, because washers and dryers specifically, the industrial dryers that they have there, they're really nice. And the heat kills anything that you would have to worry about. It's the same reason why I don't have a problem using laundromats, even though I am a germaphobe, because it's like, well, the dryer is going to kill anything that I would care about anyway, So let's see. yeah, so I'll check for any kind of activity of any kind, you know. A big variable is, of course, going to be the water pressure in the shower. Obviously, I like high pressure, but also I am in California, you know, so out west, sometimes that's not a very good idea because it's wastewater. Or does it, though? Because sometimes I also do wonder, like, if you have a lower pressure shower, you end up spending more time in the shower to rinse off and things than you would if it was a high pressure thing. At least I do. You know, I'm sure that there's some people that stand in the shower all day and then masturbate with the fucking shower head, you know. But I'm in and out because I've got stuff to do. You know? You know, the tissues, I normally don't like to use the tissue that was already sticking out. So when I go into the hotel, I just pull a few out just to reset, you know, in case there was remnants of anything from the last person who used it on that one. The first one that was sticking out, I mean. Trying to think if there's anything else. You know, in general, it's probably not a good idea to put your suitcase or backpack or belongings directly onto any, you know, surface that's not solid. In other words, if there's a desk, then I'll normally put my suitcase and my backpack and things on the desk. Something that has a hard surface, rather than like the chair, you know, or the couch or the rug, carpet. By the way, why do they still put carpeting in hotels? That's disgusting. That's disgusting. And because if a hardwood floor you can clean, you can't clean a carpet. Not well, anyway. You can clean a carpet, but it's like, basically it's just a sponge for collecting disgusting, you know, 20 years worth of disgusting crap. And even if you clean the carpet, the disgusting crap still gets embedded underneath the carpet. So I just don't understand why they don't have hardwood floors in the hotels. I guess because little Johnny would be jumping on the bed and crack his skull open. Yeah, so I mean, you can do whatever you want, again, but typically I try to avoid sitting anything on a surface that's not hard. And then, in general, I try to avoid even using the couch and the chair and the things of that nature. Because, you know, a couch in a hotel room, they probably never clean that. Maybe they have, I don't know. Maybe they go in there with a steam cleaner, but I doubt it. Just because that wouldn't be that wouldn't be efficient. I'm not saying well, maybe they should, I don't know, but I'm not blaming them for not doing it. I'm just saying that I don't think that they do. Maybe I'm wrong, though. You know, it was so great right after COVID because companies were doing all these things that it was like, shouldn't you have been doing this the whole time? Like the airplane, they'd be like, hey, don't worry, we have completely sterilized and disinfected everything between flights. And it's like, you weren't before. But now all these companies stopped doing that, you know. The best part was that everywhere you went, all the hand sanitizer was always full. And that made my heart so happy. Any hand sanitizer, it was always plump with sanitizer. Not anymore, though. The worst is, and this is kind of tangentially related. I mean, it's more about public bathrooms, but if you use a public bathroom, do not ever use an automatic hand dryer. Automatic hand dryers are basically vectors for bacteria, disease, viruses, fecal matter. Because all the hand dryer is doing is taking the air that's in the public bathroom and sandblasting it onto your hands. You know? So I think you're honestly better off if you didn't wash your hands than if you did use the hand dryer. Assuming that you didn't take your hand and rub the toilet seat and all those things, you know. And I know the environment, but all we need to do is make decomposable paper towels. And then it's not a big deal. So yeah, hand dryers, I don't like those. And also, not only the germ factor, but a hand dryer is so loud, it is damaging your ears. They damage your hearing based on how loud they are. That's true. So every time somebody uses a hand dryer, I'm like, fucking Christ, I feel like I'm getting ice picks driven into my ear holes. Can you please stop? And then, of course, people will use the hand dryer until their hands are completely dry. Okay, wait, so I'm just trying to figure out the math of how long I've been doing this. Wait, so, all right. Okay, I do want to see if we can try to milk this for another 15 minutes just so that, you know, we can have it at a nice round hour, the length. So that way, you know, everybody can be like, oh my gosh, how is this an hour? You know, because that's good for marketing. Because if it's a round number like that, then it's easier for people to, instead of people being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this video is 56 minutes and 33 seconds or something. So yeah, hotel key card, final thoughts. Would I change it? I suppose, to be honest with you, I don't really know what was wrong with a regular key. Were keys ever a problem? I mean, I guess it's easier to easier to do the electronic bullshit from their perspective, you know, because then it's like you got to keep track of 1,000 keys, and then, you know, I would assume that you can like specifically change the frequency of the thing after every guest, or maybe they don't. You know, do they change the frequency of the opening for every time somebody checks into the same room? So like if let's say I check into a hotel, or let's say that hypothetically, this didn't happen and I'm not planning this, but let's say that hypothetically my ex, who I want to get back together with, was staying in a hotel room. This is a hypothetical situation. Was staying in a hotel room and I found out that information. So I checked into the hotel room before. The same hotel room. And I said, I'll have room, can I have room 203 because I have OCD about having rooms that are specifically the number 203 or something. And I kept the key card. Would I then be able to, when my ex checked into that room, go into the room because the frequency was still the same? Hypothetically. Yeah. Overall, I would say the biggest thing that really I hate about hotels is the thin walls. The fact that you can, and it's not even like you can hear people stomping. It's like if a normal human being is going about their business at a reasonable volume, you can hear every step and every sort of motion that they make, you know? And I feel like that should not be the case. Because this is not even just true with hotels. This is true with any apartment style building, at least in America. You can hear everything. You can hear everything any upstairs, downstairs, sideways neighbor does. But it's especially bad with the upstairs neighbors, you know? That's why I always say when people are like, oh my gosh, my upstairs neighbor is making so much noise, they're so fucking inconsiderate. I'm like, you should honestly just tell them. Because 9 times out of 10, the person doesn't realize how loud they're being, because that shouldn't really be the case. It shouldn't be that you have to, you know, the construction, they shouldn't be making the apartment building so cheap that you can hear every single step that somebody's making upstairs, you know. And I just don't understand. I mean, I guess I do understand. It's because people don't build things with quality construction anymore, and because they prioritize speed and cheapness. So we live in a world that is completely prioritized by speed and cheapness. And we just put up with it because we just put up with it. What are we going to do about it anyway? Key card. This will be an interesting, you know, something for posterity if they do end up getting rid of hotel key cards for good. Then this will be an interesting sort of time capsule. You know, it'll be like vintage. Hey, check out this vintage Dan Henschel video, you know, about this vintage object that, and you know, the great grandkids will be like, a hotel key card? What is that? You know. Is that what it used to be like when you could live on the surface of Earth? House sparrow? Probably. All right, 10 more minutes. Let's just do 10 more minutes. What the hell is the point? Hey, a crow! Crows are so crazy. They're so beautiful and crazy. Wow. Actually, that's a raven. Ravens are even better. No offense, crows. Oh, man. I'm telling you. Dinosaurs did not go extinct. They're still here. You're looking at one. Well, you're not looking at one, but I'm looking at one. You look at them all day long. Have you ever looked at a bird with binoculars? That's a dinosaur. Crazy. There's something going on. I watched a video of a starling who was perfectly imitating its owner and Amazon Alexa. There were a couple videos I watched. There was one video where the starling would fly up to the guy, you know, and start going like, not like that, but making sort of clicking sounds and electronic sounds. And then it said, Alexa, play violin music. And then the starling said that from its bird throat. And then the starling said, here's a station for violin music. Perfectly in the Amazon Alexa. It was like a tape recorder. The first time that I watched it, and then I saw another video where it was a different starling that was doing something that, you know, some lady said. I don't know. The lady had trained the starling on a bunch of phrases. You know, like, give mommy a kiss. But it wasn't like that. That's a parrot. The starling was reproducing the sound with perfect accuracy and pitch. I still think it's a fake video. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, that somebody just edited the video so that there's a tape recording over the... But no. It somehow is the bird is a tape recorder. Wow. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And they're just, the whole day, they're just eating French fries on the sidewalk, you know? We don't even give them a second thought. Crazy. And in America, starlings are really, really bad. You know, same with house sparrows. And ideally, they should all be killed, but they're still amazing creatures. It's one big peanut, and you ain't in it. That's a reference for some other video watchers. 5 more minutes. Excuse me. So, closing thoughts. I guess that, you know, I think I talked about all my hotel grievances. I mean, I'm sure there's more, but all the things that I can really think to remember. You know, I went to a hotel once where they made you pay $30 to park there. And not only that, I paid the $30 fucking dollars. And then the gate didn't even work. The gate was broken. So that was my stomach, by the way, sorry. So I would press the button, or no, I wouldn't press the button. I would use my key card. Okay, so this does actually tie into the key card business. So there was a hotel once that I went to where you had to use the key card in order to access the parking area. So you would scan the key card on the thing and it would go boop, and then it would open the thing. Theoretically, that was how it was supposed to work, but of course it didn't. Because you would scan the thing and it would go boop, and then nothing would happen. So I'd be like, boop, still nothing. It's one of these things that I just honestly assume isn't going to work. There's some things in this world that I just assume aren't going to work. Parking things that open the door or the thing, that's at the top of the list. When I am leaving a parking garage and I'm going to put my thing in, my card or whatever, I assume off the bat that it's not going to work. And then I'm going to be sitting there waiting for the thing, you know, and then the people is going to be lining up behind me. And I drop the key card. Okay, well, whatever. I don't need the key card. This is the end of the video. You know, so I would go boop, and then I assume that it's not going to work. Of course, it didn't this time. So I pressed the button that said call for help. And already I'm pissed because I'm usually in a hurry because I got stuff to do, you know. And the thing that really drives me nuts is being held up by inane bullshit like this. A cumbersome process that they have decided to turn into 10 steps. Remember what I'm talking? Opening a door. That is 1 step. 2 steps sometimes. Unlock the door? No. Well, in this hotel situation, a door is 1 step. 2 steps. Grab the doorknob, push it, open the door. 2 steps. They're trying to make opening a fucking door 10 steps. Pull your phone out. Register for a Hilton Honors account. Oops, that password's not valid. It needs to have special characters and blah, 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 blah. Oops, your password can't be one of the same passwords that you used before. Okay. Check your email. Verify your email address. No email is in the email address. Hit resend email. Still no email. Forgot password, change your password. Enter the password again. Say what gender you are, what your favorite kind of soup is. Answer the security questions. Set your security questions. Allow app to access your camera. Allow app to access Bluetooth. Allow app to access microphone. Allow app to know your location. Oops, you didn't allow the app to use your location. Go into settings and allow the app to use your location. Go into the app. Find your reservation. Enter your confirmation code. Try to find your reservation confirmation code in your email. I can't find it. Search hotel in email to try to find the email that they sent with the confirmation number. Go in and find the confirmation number. Put the confirmation number into the thing. We're going to text you a code that you enter to confirm your account with your phone number. They text you a code. Put your code in the app. Then, now you can theoretically open the door. So go ahead and press the open door button on your phone. Nothing happens. Press it again. Press it again. Press it again. Press it again. Nothing's happening. Press it again. Cannot connect to internet. No connectivity. We cannot connect to the internet. Turn off your Wi-Fi. We still can't connect to the internet. We don't know what's wrong. I have 5G, but for some reason it can't connect to the internet. Turn on airplane mode. Turn off airplane mode. Press open door again. Press open door again. Press open door again. It's not opening. It doesn't work. Go to the front desk of the hotel. Tell them your app's not working. They give you a key card anyway. You use the key card. Fuck you.